Well, one of us has read the entirety of Invincible now. One of us pumps and two of us slump. Me and Shoff are the slumpers. We have not read all of Invincible, but we brought in a ringer. We brought in Mr. Tim Costello, who joins me each and every week talking about the Bad Batch over on our Trust in the Force Star Wars channel. Mr. Tim, or I should say, Invincible Tim, how you doing today, sir?
I'm fantastic. I'm feeling invincible, or
Oh,
I'm
wow.
feeling. Put the title
Omni?
card in.
That would be cool if there was like a StreamYard button and it just put in the title card.
That'd be great.
But I put in Shoff, who is not the clone. You are Shoff, the better half. How are you doing today, Shoff?
Think, Mark. Think. I'm
He
doing
said
great.
it. He said it.
I said
He
it.
said
I'm
the
doing
thing.
great. I'm doing great. I've been anxiously waiting and anticipating this episode and recording with both of you gentlemen.
Yes.
And really looking forward to today. Welcome back to Arizona, Vactor.
Woo!
Yeah.
Welcome back.
AKA Battle Beast.
Woo-wee. Thank you. Thank you very much. And podcasting.
Here's
is
a
the
question
best way to
about
come
that.
back. Yes.
I have a question about that. So Michael Dorn plays Battle Beast, and Battle Beast is basically an alien, like a Tiger Wharf. Is that considered typecasting?
Actually, yeah, because and in DC, the animated DC, he plays Caliban, who is like
Calabac,
Darkseid's
yeah.
or Calabac, and
Yeah.
like it's just his voice, Michael Dorn's voice. I guess like you think the typecast is just that feeling of the voice that you get when he talks.
He has
when
the
gives you
voice
that.
of a warrior.
Excellent.
And Vincent, Tim, real quick, since you've read all of it, without spoiling, can you just tell us, will we see Battle Beast again?
Yes.
Okay.
You will see
Hey,
Battle Beast
good,
again.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was hoping to see him at some point in this part 2 of season 2, and it did
Yeah.
not happen. So I was like, oh, what? I mean, he'd be a great person to be an ally against the Viltrumites. So I hope that there's some collaboration or something down the line. But that's just speculation. I know nothing about that aspect of things.
Yeah.
But
No spoilers, Tim. I'm a
Nope.
little bit further ahead on Shoff in the comics, but I'm not to the end as Tim is, as we talked about. But Shoff actually joined us for the first half of Invincible. If you haven't checked that out, you can check out all of the original episodes, season 1, the first half of season 2. Shoff and I had a great discussion all about Invincible. And Shoff, is it fair to say that we loved the first season and the first half of season 2? Is that fair to say?
Oh yeah. And you know, I definitely wasn't like, I could have kind of taken it or leave it. I was like, I don't know if I want to watch this show. You know me, I'm not 100% on animation all the times, and I feel like I've been watching so much animated content lately. It's almost too much. I'm like, what happened to like just having like human characters on screen watching like real life things go down? But that being said, Invincible is quality television, quality storytelling. And after finishing the first compendium and seeing how that has aligned with what has appeared on TV, even though there's been slight variations and certain things happening out of order, it's been awesome. And honestly, I would actually say in most ways, the TV show is better at organizing the stories
Absolutely.
together than what the compendium does, in my opinion.
Yes, and that was something that we talked about on the first season, where Robert Kirkman had 10 to 15 years between when Invincible was being written and then when the show came out. So him saying, hey, what would I have done differently? Maybe if this came out in 2024, what would Invincible be like? And he had a chance to learn from some of his mistakes. So I think that's an interesting way to look at a lot of these adaptations that we're getting now, Tim. You have now read all of Invincible. You had not read it when the first season aired, but you have now. So
he read it in like a day.
No, I read the whole thing in like 2 weeks. Like I started on April 1st, and then I was just like, you know what? I think I'm gonna finish it either today or like I texted Vector like I'm either gonna finish it today or Monday. and he's like, no, you're doing it today. I'm like, yeah, we'll see. And it happened.
Yes,
So.
yes.
I have a feeling that he's just got like a USB port or something somewhere in the back, and he's
That would
just
be
downloading the
amazing.
content. It's not.
If
There's
if
not
you could
actually
do that,
reading happening. He's just
sign me up,
It's in my
Sean.
glasses,
downloading.
man. It's in my glasses.
that would be amazing. Alan or Tim the alien, that would be great. I would love to have that feature. But Tim, since you weren't with us on that original recap or the original reviews that we were doing, why don't you tell us real quick, what did you think about season 1 of Invincible?
I thought season 1 was great. I like that in the first episode is basically the first 4 issues, because the first episode ends with Omni-Man like slaughtering the Guardians of the Globe. And I was like, oh, okay, so we're doing like, this is interesting. And
Yeah.
also you mentioned like how like you both mentioned how like Invincible, the show, is like moving things around. And like we get Cecil in like the second episode, and we don't get him until issue 14 or 14 or 15, until after the confrontation with Omni-Man has already happened. So I really liked that change. I was like, oh, this is interesting. And I liked that change because we got to see, I mean, we do get to see scenes with mild spoiler, with Omni-Man and Cecil later on the line. But seeing it at this moment was really cool. I'm like, I'm glad we got to have this. And one thing I loved that I really like, and this will coincide greatly into our season discussion, is the characterization of Amber.
Yes.
In the show, she is a much better character.
Yes.
In the show than she's in the book. In the book, she's just the typical college brat girl that you would meet in a college setting.
Yeah, she's like a token blonde. Like there's really nothing to her other than being the girlfriend. Like
right.
Exactly. And when he starts hooking up with her, you're just like, and there's this tension with Eve like there is in the show, but in the book, you're just like, okay, when's he gonna ditch Amber and hook up with Eve? But here here I was just like, I know it has to happen, but I almost don't want it to, because they've got such a good relationship and she's such a better character. And like, I know it has to happen. And I thought how they did it in the show was very well done. And it didn't make Amber or Mark, it didn't happen at their expense as characters, basically.
Right.
Yes.
That's actually very similar to Scott Pilgrim, where when that live action movie came out, I liked Knives Chow a lot more than I did in the book when I was reading Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah.
So I'm a fan of this type of adaptation where it's changing things around. It's kind of improving the flow, like Shoff said, kind of the order of things and the structure of things. I think I agree with Shoff is improved for the show. So this is the type of adaptation I like, not a 1-to-1, like, okay, this is gonna ruffle Shoff's feathers, perhaps, but the Watchmen adaptation where it's like, all right, this is the exact panel from the comic. Now here it is on screen. It looks the same. There's no creativity, Shoff. It's just the same thing.
How dare you?
I invoke the Watchmen
it's okay.
card.
It's all good. It's all good. Actually, adding to what Tim was talking about and what you're talking about, Vactor, with the idea of the juxtaposition of some scenes or the swapping out of characters in some scenes, getting into spoiler territory, because we're going to be spoiling the second half of the season. But a big part of the second season is sort of the breaking down of the relationship between Mark and
100%.
Amber. And I think that in the comics, that is not done as effectively, other than it just being more of an annoyance. The idea that Amber is just annoyed by this constant him having to leave, they're not getting any quality time, blah, blah, blah. Not so much the danger of being with a superhero and how you're in the line of fire as well. And so the show does a much better job of this by putting Amber in the seat when Anissa, is that how you pronounce her name?
Yeah,
when
I believe so.
when she shows up, versus having Mark's mom be in the seat, how it is in the comic book. I think putting Amber in there creates much more tension and drama, and for the relationship puts a serious like very much a concern and a danger for her well-being. So I think the show really maximized that in a big way, and that's what I think was the real impetus for why their relationship is not going to work out, because she's too much of a liability in that sense. So And then
that
we see
goes-
it later, which is also in the comics of Mark's mom being in the line of fire as well, with the return of Angstrom Levy.
Angstrom Levy,
So,
yes.
yeah.
And that goes to what Tim was saying, the point of you caring about Amber makes that have more weight to it, because if we didn't care about her, if she was just the token blonde, her being, the pawn doesn't have as much effect on us as, oh, we care about that character. We don't want them to die. We don't want them or anything to happen to them. And we don't want Mark anything to happen to him emotionally. So I think that was very strong what they did of changing that around, like you said, Shoff. So man, they are cooking with this show. So
Absolutely,
as I said,
yeah.
we talked about episodes 1, 2, 3, 4. That was part 1. They split it up, gave Tim a chance to read the entire series.
That's
They
right.
came back.
That was so
It
nice
was-
of Amazon to do that for me. I swear.
It was November 24th was the last of part 1. March 14th was the first of part 2. So we had episode 5, this must come as a shock. Episode 6, it's not that simple. Episode 7, I'm not going anywhere. And episode 8, I thought you were stronger. Anything that, let's just kind of generally talk about these. Anything that stands out as your favorite moment from these episodes? Since Tim is the newbie, let's ask Tim first. Let's put him on the hot seat.
All
Make
right.
him
Whew,
sizzle.
whew, whew. Yeah, it's getting a little toasty in here.
Sizzling over there.
Yes, it is. I did want to say one thing that you guys said on your last episode is the voice cast. Oh my gosh. Like, this voice cast is incredible. Like every time, looking at the little x-ray feature on Amazon, I'm like, no, that's not them. Oh my gosh, it is. Shapes, Ben Schwartz as Shapesmith was wonderful.
Yes.
I'm going to stand here in solitary motion.
He makes me laugh every time I
Every
see
time.
him. He doesn't even have to speak a word, and I start laughing.
Yeah. And Sterling K. Brown as Angstrom Levy was fantastic. Mark
That's-
Hamill as Art. I mean, you could go on and on about
I
this
wish we
voice
had
cast.
more.
Yeah. Oh, it's
Yeah,
just
that- it was the same thing in part 2. It did not let up from where Shoff and I left off. It just continued. Like, their vocal coach or the casting director, kudos, give them an Emmy, because they have assembled such a strong cast, even bringing in Callista Flockhart as the babysitter. And that
that
can
was
feel like
interesting.
that could be a
you know what? I
throwaway
wasn't
role.
checking the X-ray at that time. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, she doesn't have like a memorable voice.
Yeah.
But it's like you're bringing in a strong actor to do just this little role. And I think Angstrom Levy, to me, is my MVP for this half. Like, the second half of this, I love Sterling K. Brown as an actor.
Yes.
I probably said that in the past one, but
Mhm.
this, I just, he's given so much material, so much to work with. I kind of wish we had some more Mauler twins in this half.
Yeah.
Yeah,
this was
but they come back too. They always seem to rear their ugly heads, even in like the final arc of the entire book series. They still come back, and I'm reading this and I'm like, well, they wouldn't be the end without these guys.
Yeah, you
So
had
it was a
texted me
welcome
that.
thing.
Yeah,
Can I make one gripe though about the
love
voice
that.
cast or whatever?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's just one gripe. It's not a huge thing, but I feel like they're overusing Clancy Brown personally.
Yeah.
Do you feel like in
His-
this
it's
show,
not-
or are you saying
I think
in
he
general?
needs to be like specialized. Obviously, he's used for Krieg, I think, right?
Krieg.
But he's also used for plenty of the big, like, monstrous villains that they
Yeah.
encounter, whatever you want to say, like the freaks of the week or whatever. But like, I feel like they need to dial that back, and just, if he's going to be a named character, something that's prominent to the story, then leave it at that. Like, his voice is too iconic and it stands out, and it's easy to know when Clancy Brown is talking, and you don't have to look at X-ray, you just know it's him talking. So I think that he's being overused in a way, kind of in the same way that the guy who plays he's on Lower Decks, and he plays the Bajoran tactical guy, Shax. I can't think of his name.
Oh,
off.
yes. That's the Hulk. Dang, now I'm blanking on
I
his
can't-
voice.
Tachitauri. Is that Tachitauri?
No,
Yeah,
it's
Fred.
dang it.
Fred.
Yes, Tadashore.
Tadashore. Yeah. He sometimes his voice, he's another one of those guys, always in those roles, those big hulking, massive guys.
Right.
And his voice is iconic. And he doesn't really vary it too much between those characters. And it starts to get a little bit like, okay, this is just like a carbon copy situation. So I'd be okay if we saw or heard less of Clancy Brown unless we're getting General Krieg, and just leave it at that. That's my only gripe. Otherwise, I love the voice.
I have that. I don't have that with Clancy Brown. I want more Clancy Brown. Like I cannot get enough of Clancy Brown. But you know who I do feel that way about is Ross Marquand.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I like, and we're going to talk about him later in our X-Men 97 review, but I'm just hearing his voice a little too much on too many things right now. So I'm getting a little Ross Mark. Like he's a great actor.
Dang you, Infinity War.
yeah. He's a great mimic of. He did the Red Skull in Infinity War, and he's okay. He's good. He's a good actor. I'm just hearing his voice too much. So I think Shoff, me and you are on that same kind of thing. Although I love Clancy Brown, it's just Ross Marquand. I could get a little less. He's getting too many roles. Save it for somebody else, Ross. But yeah, that was the only gripe that I had. But Tim, did you have any gripes? Did you have anything that kind of stood out to you that
did I have any
upset about?
I want to mention something I liked first.
Okay, yeah.
And this is in episode 7.
Little compliment sandwich, if you will.
That's right. I have gripes. I complain about stuff apart from what people like to believe. But episode 7 had this really great moment, and what I like about the Science Dog character is Science Dog, and in this Seance Dog, gives Robert Kirkman kind of the platform to basically give gripes about the comic book industry. Yes. It's so great. There was this moment in issue 97 where something, I'm not gonna say what huge happens, but then it just cuts to the creator of Science Dog saying, yeah, we're building up to the 100th issue, and we really feel like we want to do something different, and talks about comic numbering, and I'm just like, wow. And in episode 7, they do the same thing, only they comment on animation styles. And
I was laughing so hard.
I was laughing so hard because as they're talking about it, they're doing thing that they're complaining
not showing
about.
Their mouth or something.
Not showing their mouths, wide shots, and I'm just like, this is great. And Mark's like, wow, I'll notice those things in season 3.
Yes. And so I got to give a shout out to the artist on that, which it was funny because the real life artist Ryan Otley, I saw him on Twitter. He put new profile picture, and it was the character from the show, but the voice is not Ryan Otley. The voice is Tim Robinson, who is on I Think You Should Leave, and that is one of my favorite comedy series of all time. So when I hear his voice, I just, this is like Jason Mantzoukas, same thing, just like now I'm blanking on his name, Sonic the Hedgehog, that we just mentioned earlier.
Ben Schwartz.
Yes, Ben Schwartz. Anytime I hear those guys' voices, it just makes me laugh. So Tim Robinson is another one. So I had to give a shout out to him. So that was great. That was Tim, Invincible Tim. That was a great pull that you just made.
Yeah, but going to my gripes is the spider in the room.
Yes.
I've mentioned this to both of you, but I'm going to put it on air. I found the agent spider to be very distracting. And I wasn't a fan of it, because I loved yes, Agent Spider. I love the Spider-Man crossover in the comic, because so it happens like it happens in the show, where it cuts and like he's in this other universe, and then he goes back to our universe. But then in a whole other issue, Marvel Team Up number 4, I think. They have a whole other issue where it's Spider-Man, or Invincible's in Spider-Man's world. Yes. And that was great. And I think with the fact with not only Agent Spider, but there was Prof Ock, which is didn't care for that. Just like clearly Doc Ock, and anyone who anyone who knows Spider-Man knows it's Doc Ock. And I think because with the internet, we know how the Spider-Man stuff kind of shapes out. Like, well, you can't use Spider-Man because Sony owns Spider-Man and this kind of thing. So, and I feel like it detracted a little bit and really didn't add anything to the episode. That was just me. I didn't care for it. I mean, like, I don't think they had to do it. I really don't think it had to be done. It's just it's an nice Easter egg for the fans, and for that, that's fine. But for me, it just didn't work.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And even with Josh Keaton doing the voice, who was the Spectacular Spider-Man.
Well, see, I never saw that show, so I don't have a connection.
Oh man,
So,
yeah,
okay.
I'm with Tim on that one. There wasn't any like nostalgia working in our favor in that regard. It didn't matter to me who voiced it because it was just okay. It's a Spider-Man
knockoff.
Yeah, it's a Walgreen brand Spider-Man.
Dang. I gotta say, I had the opposite reaction because Spectacular Spider-Man is my favorite Spider-Man animated series of all time. Over the 90s Spider-Man.
You lie.
100%.
Miles Morales.
Get out of here, Vactor.
You told me that Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man was your favorite. And then last week before that, you told me Ultimate Spider-Man was your favorite. So pick a favorite.
That's not true.
Come back here, sucker.
Josh Keaton is a fantastic voice actor. So when I heard his voice and I knew who it was supposed to be, I liked the naming of it, Tim. I think is kind of an homage to what Robert Kirkman did throughout the comic. Whenever you had like a one-off villain or you had something that a character came up that you were probably never going to see him again, they always had these really interesting names, but they would kind of be plays on the characters that we know from Marvel and DC, like the big type of characters, even
like the original Guardians of the Globe.
Yeah, like Martian Man instead of Martian Manhunter,
Red Rush,
War Woman, Red Rush. I like when I was reading those, I was like, oh yeah, I get that, who this analog is supposed to be. And it's kind of a fun name because we've grown up knowing those names. They're like cemented in our brains, but it's like, it's not that it's in an alternate universe. It could have been War Woman instead of Wonder Woman. It could have been something else. And they just, it happened to fall on these names. So it's interesting to kind of take yourself out of this reality and out of this world and look at it from a different lens. So I like the Prof Ock, the Professor Octopus. I thought that was kind of a fun play on it.
I think the difference there with what you're saying, which I know exactly what you're saying, and I know and I get it, because there are all these different kinds of characters throughout the entire Invincible run that are supposed to be takes off of current characters that are in comics or happening in comics, because that's what Invincible is at the end of the day. It's a commentary on comics and superheroes, and the show definitely plays into that. But the difference is, I think it's clearly Spider-Man, and knowing that it was supposed to be Spider-Man but couldn't for legal reasons, because if they want Spider-Man in TV, the episode's got to be like 45 minutes or less, which every Invincible episode runs at like 46 to 50. And so I think if I didn't know all this stuff from following the character and the movies and things like that, I think I probably would have enjoyed it more. But knowing all that stuff and reading the comic, and usually I could separate, because like I've said, I like what the adaptation is doing with so many different things. But I think knowing that it was supposed to be Spider-Man definitely kind of took me out of it. I think that was my main thing, is like, it took me out of it. But I still loved the Batman thing, because that shot, it's exactly the same way it is in the book. Like, you have Invincible in the background and Batman in the foreground, kind of like you can't tell it's Batman, but it's Batman. And when I read that in the book, I'm like, this is great. I love this so much.
Yes. I was right there with you when that Bat cameo appeared. I was having a good time. Shoff, where were you having a good time in these 4 episodes in part 2 of season 2? Where were you having the best time at?
Well, I didn't watch the show, so I need to watch it.
Get out of here, Shaw.
It was good. I mean, I checked out like a YouTube, like recap or something. No, it was I really enjoyed a lot of it. And honestly, I was reading it at the same time as I was watching it, and I like that approach. It really works well because of how much the show really does follow in a much more fast-paced, sort of crammed storyline way, but still in a great way, because the show does a really excellent job from a real estate perspective of how they still provide plenty of time for all the characters that need storytelling. I don't feel like anybody gets the short end of the stick. They all get their chance to sort of have a moment and shine. Even like Shapesmith, who, like was just like brought in, and honestly, more going on with Shapesmith in the show than in the comic.
Absolutely.
And that's, I think,
noticed that.
yeah.
I noticed that going in, when he was introduced at the beginning of last season, because it wasn't revealed he was a Martian until way later.
Yeah.
And they're just like flat out like, oh, he's a Martian. And so that was really cool. Like just so many things that they're doing.
Yeah. I think it was a better joke that they all knew he was a Martian versus them being surprised.
I know. Yeah. And of course Cecil knew because he knows everything.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But I think definitely his character was definitely fleshed out more, probably because of ad libs or improv happening in the booth with Ben Schwartz. I would not be surprised. So, but all in all, I think, everything was excellent. I think one of my least favorite storylines, which I don't think some of the episodes are starting to blur a little bit for me, but the stuff involving the Reanimen with D.A. Sinclair and Rick.
They recast D.A. Sinclair.
Yes, they did. Which is good. I have no issues with.
Yes, no issues here either.
But that to me is that's a boring storyline to me. Like I could care less what happens with that. I will say that making William gay in the show was the best thing you could do for this character, because in the comics he may as well be gay, and but he's not in the comics. What's that?
And he is.
He's definitely gay, but in the comics, for whatever reason, he's not, and he like dates Eve, and it's like, come on, give me a break. This is ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, and in the book, they make mention to the fact, like Eve says, by the way, we did not sleep together. And like, no matter what he may tell you, we did not do it. And it's issue 87, I think 87 or 88, that William comes out of the closet.
Oh, really? Okay, good.
Yeah,
okay.
And
see, I didn't know that, but yeah, okay, I'm glad.
Yeah, it is there. It's just, different times. This was 2003 to 2013, and like we're not as accepting. We weren't as accepting as of those kind of things back then as we were right now. It's the same thing, like Vactor talked about Scott Pilgrim, like Roxy was such a, oh my gosh, Ramona's a lesbian, oh dear. But now with the show, they got to explore that and what that meant and the deepness of the relationship. And now, because in the book, William will keep asking about, like, why haven't you tried to save Rick yet? Why haven't you tried to save Rick yet? And Mark's like, why do you keep asking me?
Yeah, exactly. Oh my god.
But then if straight out in the show, he's just like, yeah, I'm gay, we're going out. And it works. Yeah. It works better. And way better. All the changes they make in this show are improvements, which is what you would want from an adaptation.
Yeah. One thing that surprised me a little bit, and that granted, it is the age of the material, but the use of the R word happens a lot in the comics.
Oh, in the comic. Yeah.
And if you guys don't know what R word I'm talking about, it's special needs type word. But I was a little bit shocked because it's thrown around very casually, and so I was a little bit surprised about that. But all in all, I mean, I really, really enjoyed it. And I think probably my favorite moment of these 4 episodes that made up the second half of the season was the moment with Omni-Man recognizing that he misses his wife.
Ooh.
That line, he's like, I think I miss my wife. Like the delivery that J.K. Simmons provides in that is so beautifully done, raw, very honest, and vulnerable. And I really appreciated it. And it confirmed suspicions that there's a redeemable aspect to him. So yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to Tim when he was reading, and I think this was before you had finished the show, right, Tim? And I was saying,
Mhm.
do you think Omni-Man is redeemable at this point in your mind? Like after he had tried to take over the world and after he had beat Mark, after he had done Shove
And
Shirt.
call his wife his pet.
Yes.
yeah.
And Tim, did you say you did think he was redeemable? I can't
At
remember at
that
that
point,
point.
I was unsure.
Oh yeah.
But then, like as I kept reading, I'm like, yeah, I think there may be some redemption, and there are moments coming up that are going to be wonderful once they're on screen, and I'm
It's
excited to see
really
them.
Yeah, it's really interesting for me seeing both of you reading it, fairly close together. When I was reading these issues, it was like years before these things were coming out of like
When
the
Omni-Man left, it was a whole year. Like it was
yeah.
12 issues, and that's a whole year. And like we haven't even had, like, Omni-Man is still pretty much in a lot of episodes
Mhm.
this season comparatively to the book, which
Yeah, it's
is
really just been these breaks that they've been taking that's been prolonging it because the first season came out like 3 years ago at this point, and it's just because of these breaks. But in the comics, like, it was a monthly thing, and thinking about the time that I was in when I was reading those comics, and I was like, "Man, it was a year of me thinking Omni-Man was not redeemable, he's a bad guy, we don't like him," and then having that turn as I was watching the show, watching my wife's reaction because she had not read any of the comics, it was like, "Oh, I know something you don't know." And now Tim's in that position. He knows the ending of Invincible, but he's not gonna spoil it here on
no
our
way. Wouldn't dream
episode.
of it,
Um,
because
I did really
they might do things better than the book when it comes to that point.
Yeah, I really wanna see where that how that plays out, so we'll
Mhm.
see as the episodes come out, and there's 2 more seasons already as I think they're working or Tim had said that they finished the vocals on the 3rd season, and I think they had been kind of rumors of the 4th season in the background, so I think 2 more seasons will be pretty good. Maybe they'll wrap it up at 5?
Yeah,
Maybe?
I can honestly see it because Shoff had asked me, like, because since I'd read the book in its entirety, like where conceivably, like where it could end, and I think 5 seasons is good. I think they could end like as fast as they're telling the story. I think 5 seasons is almost more than enough. Uh,
Hmm,
and I really
okay.
think the way they're telling it with the amount of episodes they have, I think, yeah, I think we're in for a nice ride. And I'm
Yeah.
excited to see who Jeffrey D. Morgan is playing in this show.
Ooh, yes.
I have
Um,
two theories, but I won't say them here.
okay. Yeah. So let us know in the comments below what your theories are on Invincible season 3. If you watched season 2, if you watched season 1, if you've been with us this whole time, and if you've been reading the comics, don't spoil it if you know the ending for the comics. But this is going to be a fun ride because I think the thing that gets me excited is the way that this is being adapted because it was already one of my favorite stories in comics, but the way that it's being adapted to this animated medium in this format, I think it's a really fun um, way of telling the story and saying, "Oh, this is a little bit different than what you expected of what you read in the comics." So I like that. I like where they're going with all of this.
And
Shoff, did you? Oh, go
with
ahead,
the
Tim.
credits, the
Oh,
openings,
yes,
they've
yes,
been
yes.
teasing a change that is going to happen in season 3, and I'm very excited about it.
I'm a little upset at myself, boys, because I had ordered an Invincible blue logo shirt and it's arriving later today, but we're recording right now, so we're not you're not going to get to see it until season 3. That was my fault. I didn't order it early enough. But I like the change in the front door just rang. I thought maybe they were delivering it right now, boy. But
Could be right here.
I'm really liking the
Costume change on the show.
Yeah,
that'd be fun.
we'll do it live. We'll do it live. You have to show your chest though. You have to.
Whoa. Okay. But I really like that, breaking the little pieces away and knowing what's coming up. So we'll see what's coming up. Shoff, did you have any final parting words for this season, or what you're looking forward to for season 3?
I'm really looking forward to the dynamic between Mark and Oliver, because the way the first compendium ended, we got to see a bit of a team up sidekick type thing happen, and we got to see his powers manifest a lot sooner than happened for Mark. And they had a brief interaction helping sort of take down some baddies together. And so I'm really interested to see how that goes, and also see like if he gets a costume and what like his superhero name is going to be. Like, I'm really interested to see what happens with Oliver, but also because he's aging at an accelerated rate. My question is, will he slow down, or will he just keep aging to the point where like he's going to like die prematurely?
Right.
Like part of me wonders like how much it's just going to be to get him to a certain point where he's like the same age as Mark and then he's going to be fine, or this is going to be something related to the alien DNA that's going to cause this to happen. So I'm intrigued. And then I'm also really intrigued for the dynamic between Alan and Omni-Man.
Yes.
On the
Oh, I love them together so much.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love Alan. I love that he got his upgrade and he's like super buff and can really do some damage to Viltrumites now. Makes me so excited. And it's probably, dare I say, one of my favorite roles that Seth Rogen has ever been involved with.
Oh, wow.
Personally. So
yeah, I agree. Definitely one of his best performances. Man, I cannot wait. And I hope that you cannot wait as well, dear viewer, dear listener. We're going to continue to talk about Invincible here on This Comic Cooks. Maybe we might do a comic book episode talking just about the comic instead of the show, but that is to be seen, remains to be seen here on This Comic Cooks. And should I put Shoff on the spot and ask for a closing? Okay, no closing, Shoff.
just can let them cook. Let them cook.
Ooh-wee. All right. Well, we're going to continue to let them cook, and we're going to continue to let you cook here on This Comic Cooks. Like I said, leave a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts, and we will be back when season 3 comes out.